So we've got our first official look at the Stellar Blade sequel, albeit it's a small little glimpse into this future follow-up, but it's come out of completely nowhere, alongside recruitment for the game's sequel. We know that Shift Up have been working on a Stellar Blade 2 for a little while now, as this information came out officially within a semi-annual report by the company in August of this year, with the official announcement saying, "We are currently developing a sequel to Stellar Blade. The sequel will inherit the action-packed gameplay of the original game while incorporating an expanded world and enhanced gameplay mechanics. This aims to further solidify its position as a franchise IP, and we anticipate it will achieve even greater success than the original title." Previously, the director of Stellar Blade, Kim Hyung-tae, had mentioned that the company are actually aiming to release this sequel by 2027. Now, it's not an officially concreted release year for the game. This is more of a tentative year that the company want to aim for, and it is incredibly ambitious as it only leaves the studio about 3 years of dev time in order to get this game out. I personally don't think we'll be seeing Stellar Blade 2 until about 2028 at the earliest, but who knows, maybe they can pull through. We know that Shift Up aren't just working on the next Stellar Blade, but additionally they're working on another game known as Project Spirit, which is likely to release before the second Stellar Blade. However, it would seem as if things are starting to ramp up for Stellar Blade 2 as a bunch of new job positions just opened up at Shift Up. Basically, all of the typical positions for game development are currently open at the studio right now. Technical artist, client programmer, scenario writer, system designer, level designer, composer, 3D background artist. But alongside all of these new job openings, Shift Up released a statement about the follow-up, mentioning the next title in development following Stellar Blade is a AAA grade, multi-platform action game that expands upon the universe of the company's global hit Stellar Blade. It is planned for release on various platforms, including consoles and PC, and aims to deliver an even more evolved action gameplay while inheriting the stylish action and narrative-driven unique IP universe of the previous title. That's at least the most important paragraph to take out of this most recent announcement. They're really honing in on the whole multi-platform thing, and while this doesn't absolutely confirm that Stellar Blade 2 will on day one release across all consoles as well as PC, as multi-platform could just simply mean on both PlayStation as well as PC platforms, it seems more than likely that this time around for Stellar Blade 2, the game won't just be locked to specifically PlayStation, as Stellar Blade was originally a PlayStation second-party release. It seems though that Shift Up are incredibly serious about Stellar Blade, especially with mentioning that they really want to turn this into a key franchise for the company and improve upon what the first game did, like the general sequel usually does. It seems like the company's got a lot of ideas though for this follow-up, as it did originally start off as an expansion DLC for the game, something that a lot of people were holding out for. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem as if the first game is going to receive a large story-eccentric DLC, but rather now they're just going to put all of their focus onto Stellar Blade 2, which I think is honestly preferred. Well, Stellar Blade was a fantastic video game, especially considering that this was Shift Up's very first attempt at a proper story-focused AAA console title. The main criticism that I had for the game, that I see most people in agreement with, was the actual narrative. It certainly wasn't as strong as most of the other aspects of the game. And this is actually something that Kim Hyung-tae acknowledged as being a weaker aspect of the game, and that if they get an opportunity in the future to craft a Stellar Blade sequel, that narrative will certainly be honed in on much more than the first game. But Shift Up randomly attached a concept art of the Stellar Blade follow-up, so this is our first official glimpse into the next game. And there's actually a lot going on in this concept art. The first thing we're noticing here is the environment. It's all taking place in this retro, cyberpunky, futuristic city environment, which for one is actually kind of strange because it's like, where is this? This certainly doesn't look like Xion, and it's clearly inhabited as well. We can see people on the street, there are cars driving on the ground road, but yet we've also got flying cars up in the air as well. As we know, in the world of Stellar Blade, Xion is supposedly meant to be the last standing city of humanity. And while the general aesthetic of Xion actually does align up with the aesthetic of the city that we're seeing here. We certainly don't have cars driving around, flying cars roaming all over the place. So where exactly is this? We can also see a large explosion coming out of the building with what looks to be a natiba, and is that Eve? It's pretty hard to make out, but at the very least, it does look like an airborne squad member. So clearly there is some type of a natiba invasion happening within this city. Now Stellar Blade has 3 different endings, though making new memories is considered to be the true ending, which the sequel will likely be based off. Within this ending, Eve accepts Adam's proposal to effectively merge together to become a new species to ensure the future of mankind. This practically solidifies Eve's position of being the angel of humanity, just as the citizens of Xion refer to her as throughout the game. We learn that the Natiba are in fact descendants of the original humans that inhabited Earth that have mutated into grotesque creatures that have basically lost all traces of humanity and any form of intellect. Also, any of the human characters we come across throughout Earth are in fact simply just androids. Eve's goal now is to basically restore humanity to its former glory. And right at the end, we see the arrival of the Mother Sphere and the colony, with the Mother Sphere basically deeming Eve as a threat. So Stellar Blade 2 is pretty much going to focus on the Mother Sphere now being the main antagonist of the game. However, we also see that Lily and the citizens of Xion end up restoring power to the city. So I have to wonder if the city that we're seeing here in this concept art is actually some form of a rebuilt, more inhabited, more bustling version of Xion, and that all of the people and the inhabitants that we clearly see within this concept art are just more androids. This is happening during a point in time where we clearly haven't restored former humanity. The Natiba invasion is still very much a real thing, as proved by the Natiba that's clearly being kicked by what appears to at least be Eve, but the entire purpose behind helping out the citizens of Xion within Stellar Blade was to essentially rebuild the community, which the city that we're seeing here definitely looks like a rebuilt community, because it's made very clear within the game that Xion is the last standing city on Earth that has any semblance of a society. This is really cool though. This at least depicts a very much more alive city atmosphere compared to what we got to see within the first game. I mean, Stellar Blade offers us a lot of desolate, barren, deserted, and post-apocalyptic environments, which the sequel I'm sure is going to very much focus on more of those types of environments, as Earth is basically a wasteland crawling with mutated creatures, which is a very cool atmosphere to be sure, but I'm very much looking forward to this possibility of seeing a much more alive, cyberpunk yet retro-futuristic type-esque city environment in the game. What's a little bit confusing about this though is there are roads, there's streets, there's cars driving around, in which we know Xion is constructed around a cliff face with the main hub of the city being built on a rock. It's not exactly the right landscape for streets and roads, so is this truly Xion? Because I'm sure that the sequel of the game isn't going to be taking place, you know, years and years after the first game, where enough time has passed where the construction of a massive city like this has been established in that time. You might be thinking, well, could this scenario be unfolding in the past? But then that technically wouldn't really make sense, as the extinction of humanity was caused by the Mother Sphere. And here we clearly see a Natiba, in which we know the Natiba only came after the wipeout of humanity, descended from those last remaining humans on Earth. This concept art definitely raises a few questions. Either way though, I'm really excited about Stellar Blade 2, just the prospect of Shift Up improving upon the formula that they've got. We can only really go up from here, considering that the first game was so good, though I think it's going to be quite some time before we see or learn anything more about this game. So let me know your thoughts and opinions towards this in the comment section down below. What do you want to see from a Stellar Blade 2? However guys, thank you so much for tuning into today's video. Be sure to slippity slap that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. A big shout out to my wonderful patrons and YouTube members. I hope you're all having a fantastic day, and we'll talk again real soon.